Now it's time for my prospective guest on the programme, and the French surgeon accused of sexually abusing hundreds of his patients over 2 decades, most of them minors, has told the court he is asking for no leniency as his 3-month trial nears a verdict this week. Joël Le Scouarnec has admitted sexually assaulting or raping 299 patients, 256 of them under 15 in hospitals in Western France between 1989 and 2014, many while they were still under anaesthetic or waking up after operations. Now, whilst the case has garnered large amounts of media coverage here, many of the victims are left asking why it's not received the same coverage as that of Gisèle Pelicot case earlier this year. Pelicot covertly drugged and raped, you'll remember, by her husband on numerous occasions over a 9-year period. Well, let's talk about that. Joining us now from the New Toots organisation, or All of Us organisation, is Maëlle Noir. New Toots is a feminist group that aims to put a stop to sexual violence. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme today. Let's talk generally about the case, first of all. I mean, of course, it's a truly horrific case, isn't it, that went under the radar, if you like, for years.
Yeah, it's an appalling case. We are revolted as feminist organizations and child rights organizations. It basically exemplifies how dysfunctional institutions such as the police, the justice system, but also the hospital, the medical institutions are in France when cases of sexual violence are reported and just go under the radar. So this is extremely violent and also hard for victims to see such a lack of media attraction and just public interest on the case.
Yeah, it's led some of the victims, hasn't it, to decide to come forward, to tell their story, to try and get that media coverage and get more people aware of the problem.
Yes, exactly. I think the objective was also to try and personify the case a little bit because the number of victims is so impressive. It's, as you said, 299 victims, reported victims, because of course there are surely more of them. Is so impressive as a number that it is hard to understand the magnitude of violence and to sort of make it tangible. So some victims indeed decided to testify and openly, such as Gisèle Pelicot did herself, to try and attract more media attention. And I'm thinking about these victims in particular, who do not, get what they were expecting in terms of wake-up calls within French society and public opinion.
Do you think that's part of the problem? I mean, one suggestion, if you like, as the reason why perhaps there isn't so much coverage is there isn't that central figure. With Gisèle Pelicot, you had the face, immediately you saw that face, you knew what the story was all about, and obviously that's not the case here.
Absolutely, and Gisèle Pelicot has been depicted as an iconic victim, almost like a totem of, the fight against gender-based violence and sexual violence in France. And feminist organizations have tried to mitigate this depiction by the media, especially, but not just the media, also the politicians and policymakers have also contributed to that, precisely because when you create an icon, then anybody else who is a victim of sexual violence or gender-based violence is not, and perhaps doesn't seem to be deserving the same kind of attention. And this is what we're seeing here in the Le Scouarnec case, with more about 200 or 300 victims who are difficult to sort of identify with and be, exist as individuals and victims of violence.
What other reasons do you think there could be? I mean, one suggestion as well has been that whilst society, if you like, has started to talk about sexual violence amongst adults, perhaps that conversation has not happened in the same way with children, and most of the victims here were children.
I agree. Perhaps it's also because, the Le Scouarnec's victims are in a way a bit more relatable. We've all been children visiting a doctor, visiting a surgeon, perhaps. So it is easier perhaps to identify with the victims themselves, even though we don't know who they are. We don't have a single public iconic figure. but yet we might also think, it could have been me. And perhaps Pelicot's case, and also again the way that he has been depicted and covered by the media, was a bit more sort of exceptional in a sensationalist way. Sorry, and perhaps this phenomenon of thinking, yes, it could have been me, is triggering this paralysis in French society. It's so appalling and it's so sickening, that we are all in denial, and all the society is in denial, and it's hard to wake up and to understand the consequences and magnitude of such violence.
And France is also quite a patriarchal society, as are many others around the world. I mean, is that part of the problem as well?
Absolutely. Patriarchy and other power systems, in that case also childism, of course, are the root causes of gender-based violence. And perhaps feminist organizations have been working extremely hard these past few decades, if not more, to make society understand that gender-based violence is a structural crime that is based on power systems and system of domination, of oppression. And child rights organizations have been have faced more difficulties to get this media attention and public interest in understanding that such violence is also based on the very same mechanisms as violence against women and gender minoritized people. So as you said, of course, these power systems are at the basis of both the perpetration of violence, but also the silence against such violence when it is reported. So there is a long way to go still to make society understand that gender-based violence against children is also based on the very same mechanisms as violence against women and gender minoritized people.
Let's talk finally once again about the victims in this case. I mean, some of the victims I was reading, I felt that their whole lives have been dominated by what happened to them, even if they didn't actually remember the incident itself. Because of what happened, it's affected their lives. And since they've been told what happened to them, it kind of explains why they've had what they thought were irrational fears.
Absolutely, and there is a lot of scientific studies about that, about bodily memory and what happens within the body when you've been sexually assaulted, and how it accompanies you throughout your life, and how it also guides or informs the trauma that you may carry. So Nututs is thinking about these victims today and every day, and we wish to express our full support and tell them that they are very, very important in the fight against gender-based violence, for any type of gender-based violence, really. And this must be extremely traumatizing and revolting also to be facing the justice system in the eyes, and Joël Le Scouarnec in the eyes, together with another couple of hundreds of victims.
Maëlle Noir, good to talk to you on the programme today. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us. Nutut, she's from the organisation All of Us, as that would translate in English. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme today.
Thank you.